It's December 26, 2017. It's 10:10 a.m. And this is the Open Divvy meeting. And Gary and Rao are with us. The agenda document, or the meeting document, it's not really an agenda, it's an open meeting. But I put a link in the chat. Oops, that's the wrong one. Sorry. I gave you a link to the template. The notes are here. And usually Bob O'Brien has been hosting the meeting, and we're starting with the frustrations and excitements, sort of part of the process of getting into the space of the meeting and the space of each other's minds in order to develop a collective intelligence. In any case, play along with the game. What are your frustrations and excitements, Gary, today?
Well, my frustrations are I guess my frustration is the lack of participation, and some of that has to do with the, I suppose, the holiday season. And I know that a lot of people are going to get back to this after the first of the year, which that'll be good. Now, excitements, I do see some movement in in the social ledger onboarding process, both from Holochain and now from the Divvy DAO and the Digital Life Collective. I think I'm getting a deeper understanding of what we're going to be about here in this social ledger space that we are sort of camping out in for now, I suppose. And that's...
Yeah. Doug Rushkoff said, our onboarding is our greatest challenge. And that's often forgotten. But right now, we need to staff up. We need to bring people into this new community. And sort of like my onboarding of Krishna yesterday, which I'll put a link in to the chat. Was I'll put it in the agenda, I'm sorry. Sort of pointing out the difficulty. I mean, he's interested in the Zygos thing and this, decentralization, but nothing about blockchains at all. And it was kind of a challenge to onboard him.
Uh, yes, I think I saw something about that, Jim. And how did he? I was curious. How do people make their way here to 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 the social ledger space without knowing about at least crypto, the decentralization aspects of crypto?
Yeah, well, I guess Krishna is into decentralized society, but independent of technology. Okay. He hasn't, just not familiar with the technology. And I mean, he came to us because Rao said there was, some opportunity, told him there's opportunities here, I guess. Is that right, Rao?
Yeah, I mean, I told him that there's an opportunity to learn the technology part that correlates with his interest with the work study program. That's kind of how he came over here. Okay, a couple of, I was trying to take notes, Jim, in this document. I think the permissions don't allow me to edit or something. Can you look into that? I mean, it seems like I should be able to edit, but I'm not able to.
Okay, well, for one thing, that document.
The second one that you sent.
Yeah. And just for the sake of working out loud here, I'm going to.
You want to edit?
I'm going to record this and say what they should be. Anyone can comment at least, if not edit. In Dig Life, they have a thing where there's equivalence. So they said anyone can edit to everything. But in Dig Life, in Divvy, the habit has been we set every document to everyone can comment, which allows them to work in suggestion mode. And when somebody starts adding suggestions, we add them as an editor. Now this is the Divvy DAO. Here, and I need to share this with request access for the following addresses. Ken has everything locked down. So the meeting archives, share. Okay, so I can add Rao here. And I can add Gary here. As editors. Okay, probably not supposed to do that in an open meeting, but in a work study, we work out loud. Whatever we do, we show the other people. That creates social learning. And birds do it, and monkeys do it. It's a very powerful learning mechanism that enhances the collective intelligence. Frustrations and excitements, Rao.
Yeah, give me it. Okay, now I am able to edit that document. So I'm still kind of catching up with all the different pieces to the puzzle here, but I was able to read up on social ledger and partly on the DID. And a little bit about the holochain, and like you and I were going over the last several days, I mean, a few things jump out at me. One is that the social ledger structure is, well, I guess before I go into the technical discussion. So, I mean, frustrations wise, I don't have anything major right now. I'm just kind of bringing myself up to speed. One thing that was a little, as I look through all this, is that I see that there is a lot of need for a semantic layer to be really effective with this, and I'll go into the details in a little bit. But unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot that's readily available that we could use. So that's kind of one thing in there. The excitement part, like Gary is saying, I think a lot of groups are coming together, trying to do things. At this point, and this is maybe more a frustration than an excitement, but I'm unclear about the vocabulary of communication across the communities, and getting the, how do you make sure that people work on things with a common vocabulary and then act on that? In addition, I mean, it's not clear to me that there is a good or complete basis for that yet. But I mean, that may be more of frustration, but it's just an ongoing thing that we just need to work on. So it's so the excitement is that at least people are trying to work together and then move things forward. And I think we need to pick those pieces that would give us the most leverage in the near term and enable us to build for the future. So that I think is the key. So I mean, right now when I participate in different groups, it seems like I mean, intersecting but substantially different world. You know what I mean? That's we need to somehow congeal that into a cohesive action plan that can give some near-term accomplishments, and that in a way that we can build on them incrementally to move forward. So that's, I mean, basically where what my sense is of where I am. But maybe Jim, after you go through your frustrations and excitement, I can go into a little bit more of the details of what I was just saying.
Yeah. If you check the diglife.com glossary, they've been trying to be the language police, and I've been kicking and screaming that a common language is impossible, and that's why there hasn't been collaboration on a large scale, is because we don't make the allowance for different cliques having different languages, and our links between our circles acting as translators between the language of the circles or organizations. That's a key part of enabling us to scale, and even getting cooperation between our existing organizations, because there are thousands of organizations that are saving the world, and they're all talking their own language, and they're not cooperating. So that's how I see the problem. I guess my frustrations are that onboard is hard, and communication is difficult. And I'm in too many channels. I think a person can handle about 7 channels. Well, that's what the research shows. We can be effective in 7 channels. We can't be effective in more channels. Um, my excitements are that we have funding from our chain, where we are onboarding ourselves slowly but surely, and others. Anders brings a lot to the table in terms of developing, onboarding methodology for the co-creation spaces that he's building in HoloChain. And the New Earth Global, already on the HoloChain bandwagon, has jumped on the social ledger bandwagon, as has Anders, more or less. I mean, it seems so. In fact, he largely developed a set of tutorials for Diglight, for /dig, which is a great thing, which I can put a link in too. I think we've, did you add a topic, Rao? Thank you much for taking notes, because I am not very good at doing it. Anybody adding notes is a great help.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do what I can while listening to you.
I know it's hard to either listen or talk while typing.
Right. I mean, this is not going to be necessarily complete or best, but at least I'm trying to catch what I can.
Yeah.
So I guess the topic that I want to add is more of at least my observations on the basis of the different technical pieces that I have seen, to say, well, if we're going to enable a social ID and a social or bring your own ID and social ledger, what do I see as some of the issues in the current state? So if it is appropriate for this group, I can go over that briefly.
Yeah, and give it, they have a 3-word limit to introduce your topic. That would be good.
Okay.
I'm not clear on what the topic is. Issues in
social ledger conceptualization.
Social ledger.
Or you can say technology, but it's, I think, generally, or just say social ledger. I mean, and we can, that's kind of broad enough.
Okay.
We can speak to both. So right now, the way the social ledger, I mean, should I jump into that, or what's, or should I?
Yeah.
If others have topics, we can take them on, and then.
The norm is, people before the meeting enter topics, and then topics that come in during the meeting go at the beginning. But really, it's whatever things people want to talk about.
Well, let's just ask Gary. Gary, you have any topics you want to add for the discussion?
No, I think I concur with where I heard you going when you said social ledger, conceptualization, whatever of that. I would like to hear your thoughts on it, and then maybe I can share my own.
All right.
Okay. Jim, did you have any items you want to add, or?
I've been, they're there.
Oh, you got all this governance and all these other things down below. Okay. Okay. So, basically, I was reading up on social ledger, and of course, it takes the Mattermost type of a concept and puts puts a structure to basically say, okay, how do we capture the social activity of an individual and then use that for various purposes. The my first thing with that is, well, there is a vocabulary in Mattermost of domains and channels and circles and all that kind of stuff. But is it generally the case that whatever the person does somewhere can be mapped to that? And has that been explored? Or is it that we're just going to build for Mattermost first and then later on see what we need to do to tweak it? I mean, this is where my conversations, offline conversations with Jim into a semantic layer have gone, because presumably there is content from what a person does in LinkedIn. Presumably there is content from what a person does in Google+. Now, theoretically, we should be able to pull all of that together into a structure that is able to then make sense off of that. So that's kind of where I was going with the inevitability, so to speak, or importance of a semantic layer that is able to make sense of and negotiate across all those different structures and how the different fields are configured in there. The other reason for the semantic layer is, even when we say words, or let's say we stick with just Mattermost and there's nothing else in the world that we consider. This question of vocabulary that Jim was talking about, of how people use and the different ways people say things, and we need to be able to somehow pull that together, is the other part of it. So I guess that was my main thing. So then I went off to look into to see, well, is there something that we could use to help with this? And I was not able to find too much. Jim did send me a link or two on what may be available right now to use, but there's not a whole lot there that is really available to use. But maybe that's actually a task, to investigate what is available that might help us in this activity, and then later on figure out how to use it in the technical architecture. So that's I think that's kind of my summary of that over there.
All right, Gary, you want to add to that?
Well, I would like to know, you're talking about the semantic layer of the social ledger.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, social ledger as a concept needs to be a collection of various things that we can pull from anywhere to get a full picture of the person. I mean, and maybe there is a community scope to it, in that, so that is fine if there is a community scope. But generally speaking, even within the community scope, there will be multiple tools, and we need to be able to negotiate whatever the person is doing in all those different tools, to get a collective view, right?
Well, in the sense that we're using the social ledger as a tool to view the community, I can see the interest in the semantic layer. There's also the view of the social ledger as being a language. And I'm not sure if we're looking at this differently or not.
Yeah. Okay. The model of activities in channels, teams, or circles, and then we have language issues, not really reconcilable. In domains, no. Which is called in Mattermost teams, which is a language problem, in organizations, in federations, and cooperations among organizations. Okay, that's the model that is not Mattermost specific. It's a general model. I'm not saying that we're limited to those levels, but those are, you know, kind of the basic structure that we can conceptualize easily, that is not too complex to keep in mind. In terms of the external content, there really isn't content in the social ledger. There's just metadata. Although social objects can have state. You know, all of the communications is in Mattermost. Okay, Mattermost is the database. It's the back end. And we have an API that we can use to get that out, like in the /dig search. Okay, we call the API to do the search across channels, across teams, and across domains. In essence, our communications themselves are the channel, we don't, we just have a skeleton, a scaffolding in the social ledger that points to the channel. And then the data's in the channel. And we have APIs for interacting with external services like GitHub, like Google Documents or Google Sheets, or Canboard, whatever. And these are transparent in that we can see what operations we can do. We can see what the arguments, what the parameters are. Okay, and so a simple interface pulling down the possible APIs, objects and their APIs, the functions they can do, and filling in the arguments in a form, okay, which can be linearized into a command language and stored in the history or channel associated with that social object. And commands can be parameterized and repeated to automate, to repeat processes we've done in the past, whatever. Um, as far as the semantic processing tools go, we're starting in the JSON LD/schema world where our data is stored is sort of defined according to a JSON schema, which is basically derived from the data itself. Whatever objects we create with whatever attributes we create, in our metadata, defines a loose schema for the object, which we can refine and make more formal. And when we have, in essence, the schema of the social object that we map into a parameterized API call, and we have a history, then the mapping from name to user ID or whatever, the application or mapping becomes a crowdsourced thing. One person creates a mapping which can then be suggested to the next person. And rules can be added. So, it's this JSON LD world, needs to, in essence, to be translated into the RDF realm, which again may have rules applied to that translation that we we can choose from.
What is RDF?
Resource description language. Usually in Turtle, which is more readable. Turtle is a form, the human readable format of RDF. And then we have the Sparkle, how do you spell that? Query language for semantic data that we can apply. There's a lot of different tools we can use once we have the RDF. And, if we make that, the way that we access an object is with a .json if we want the JSON. If we want to convert it to RDF, we do an .rdf. Okay, and in essence, all of our data becomes available in both forms, according to the translation rules, which are pretty standard. There's some issues in translation, which is the big fight between the JSON LD and the RDF people. RDF is the semantic form, the more semantic form, in that it handles Um, I can't think right now. But um, um, and to that end, we want to integrate Solid to our nodes as as an RDF store for one thing, and a permissioned web store. One of the things, in order to deal with the semantic web as a back end to our browser-based applications, we need a permissioned web store. And Solid provides that for us. The main issue with it is that it based on access control lists, and we want a capability-based security. However, the node server for Solid supported permission delegation, and I haven't looked into it thoroughly, but permission-based delegation, permission delegation can support the capability-based model in precisely the way we want to do that in the social ledger. It goes back to the eyes MyPriv function that enabled user programming on the network. Procedures have owners and owner permissions and user permissions. Mixed, which lets other people use our stuff in a coordinated way, coordinated with our stuff.
What did you call that?
MyPriv, the plus MyPriv command, which is like the @sudo that we have in DigLife. You type /dig and somebody's name. Okay, the command operates with their permissions.
Okay, I got you.
And once we have patterns, we can enable others to do certain command patterns that are specific, okay, rather than carte blanche to execute all /dig commands. And then, so any other comments on this, questions?
No, that's good. I mean, it seems like at least there are a few pieces that I have not heard discussed so far in the architecture that you're saying will alleviate some of these problems. But let me just.
Are you reading the DigLife Mattermost social ledger lab channel?
I have not spent a whole lot of time in the lab yet, but I did kind of basically go through the social ledger description, general, a couple of papers, a couple of PDFs on it. I think a quick guide and the
you have to read the
detailed guide.
All the innovation is happening in the channel. That's why it's important for you to be there.
Right. I'll get there. So as far as the thinking on this social ledger is it initially that it'll be implemented in Mattermost only, or Mattermost as the main thing, or what's the
Now,
thinking on
we want a work study interfacing it to Discord and Telegram
it? Okay.
and Matrix.
Now, so when we do that, is there any concern about a potential mismatch in the concepts and vocabularies and all that kind of stuff between these different things for us to be able to make sense of, or is that going to be handled with this semantic mapping of some kind, or API mapping, or how are we going to do that?
Yeah, you know, it will be API mapping. Step one is proxy. Okay, we can just proxy the Mattermost dig life. And you know, for some interfaces, that will be a very simple process. You know, like Slack, for example, the API is almost identical to Mattermost. So the proxy will just have to handle the differences. And some of that is in the formatting of return messages. Mattermost supports Markdown, and Slack has its own markup language, where links go in angle brackets. So there's some simple translation that has to be done there. Okay, and then you know, we have the problem of identity. We have to know what someone's identity is and all the differences. You know, if they're on whatever they're on, and that's what the bring your own identity is about, is knowing their matrix ID and their Telegram ID and Mattermost ID in each of the Mattermost servers they're on. Because you really, you know, there's a persona in every server you're on, and each one has certain permissions. And
well, I mean, you really have multiple personas in probably, right, in each of those services.
yeah, essentially you have a different DID in each server, with, you know, different service discovery mechanisms. Okay, and it's all similar to OpenID. Okay, and this is a big problem. I mean, yeah, you know, a username. One of the problems we had with the interfacing CAN board with Mattermost OAuth was we didn't know what names, field names, to map between CAN board and Mattermost. And obviously, and there's probably, you know, there may or may not be, you know, a standard API definition. What is it? I can't even think now. Thinking of scuttlebutt. It's you know, the most popular API exchange format.
You're talking about Zapier or something?
No. I don't know why I often forget what it's called. I mean, you know, there's all kinds of API systems where, you know, where the API is exposed, you can try it, you know, in a web interface, and you can basically get the interface and um, uh, I have to remember. Yeah, I feel silly. I don't know the name of it. I've used, you know, been exposed to it for years, although I haven't used it much. I mean, at AT&T, you know, I used it indirectly, and there was an API. We had a tool that we used that they used the same standard under the covers, where we would define the operation and the parameters and the endpoints. And
Well, I mean, there's something called OSGI.
yeah, it may be related, but I guess I'm talking about specific services that support, you know, maintaining your APIs or generating APIs from code. So that, you know, we need to identify those tools. Okay, and the norm that we use sometimes is anything that's that's an action item, we make red.
Oh, okay.
And then we make it green when it's done, or whatever. Or,
so when you say definition, it's definition and generation?
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of the APIs out there already have a definition that we can use, but a lot of them don't. We look at HIE of 1, for example, that, and I think the link got broken. No, it links right to the an API definition that you can use.
No, this is the API tools thing that you're talking about is more to make our system interoperable with other things, or what's the goal there? Or is it to be able to just get data from other systems that may not have a clean API?
Now, when you add functionality to a social object that points to something, okay, you're going to specify the API call, okay, either in the graphical interface by selecting the functionality and filling in the parameter forms, whatever, or the command language to implement that function. Okay, as a single, you know, as we use some we played with some system row that was a process orchestration system, which essentially allowed us to call any process with any arguments, you know, for any part of the in the process orchestration.
Right.
Yeah.
There was one from Computer Associates, I think, that AT&T was using, and then there is y'all, which is a workflow thing where it would do whatever you want the different nodes to
Yeah.
do.
And then, I remember one where you could fix the code right there where you were arranging the workflow. You could actually put code in.
Yeah. I think it was a company out of Nevada or something, right? That we were talking to.
Well, that's exactly what the plan is for the social ledger.
Okay.
To be able to punch in code there, which runs under your own permissions. Okay. So, but that involves the whole bot ecosystem that we're going toward. I mean, you're familiar with chat ops. I mean, this is really an extension, an application of chat ops to a large extent, except, it links to the graphical interfaces.
It's chat ops for everybody.
Yeah. And, it has a natural, it will have the 2.0 will have a natural language. Given this pattern, do this. On a channel. Given this pattern on a channel, do this.
2.0 of social ledger or 2.0 of what?
Social ledger, yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was 1.5.
1.5, we want to include the when command, but
A limited when command.
it won't be it won't be the full blown. Okay, but yes, we will respond to patterns on channels. The events in the social ledger are patterns on channels. And we can listen for those and do some command on that basis.
So what will 1.5 have?
The dig when command. The event processing.
So dig when.
Yeah, we're going to prototype it in 1.5.
So it's when as in a rule? When is a rule?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a pattern on a channel. A natural language.
I don't know if it should be dig if or if it should be dig when, but that's a separate comment, separate story.
When seemed very, very natural. I don't.
It's reactive, not imperative.
Yeah, that's a subtlety that's lost on me, Jim. But I will accept that. But the when did in the way we're using it or going to use it, the when seemed like what we wanted rather than the if.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have not looked at, is there a document that describes all this stuff? I guess that's the labs, the social ledger labs.
Yeah, it's been discussed there quite some time ago.
I think I put it, I put some of it in the DL Glass Bead game document.
Right, okay. So this is actually not so much a rule, but a condition.
It's a rule, and you could say it if you get this pattern on a channel, do this.
Right.
Okay, but for me, that would be a one-time thing, and maybe we need that. But when is whenever you get this pattern on the channel, that's a consideration.
Okay.
Okay, the when, is really listened for. It's really an input in the process model. It's a process waiting for something in its mailbox, an actor waiting for something in its mailbox that it responds to. You're familiar with the actor model, right?
Yeah, but and I'm not sure what terminology they use. I need to go back and take a look. But that's fine. I'm fine with that for now. Then or if I'll do some processing separately on that.
Right. It's we're saying, each actor has a mailbox. Well, that's the street, anything sent on the channel.
Right.
It goes to the mailbox and then it's processed.
Right. I mean, basically, it's an event processing.
According to rules, and the rules are defined with the when.
Right. Okay.
Yikes, we're over the hour. Or we're hitting an hour. We started at 10:10.
Now, you had a bunch of items on here, Jim. You want to quickly cover those, or?
Okay. Regarding, okay, the Divvy is supposed to be the cooperation of all these communities, okay, that we're connected to. And each of us may be connected to 7. Okay, and we're trying to apply a collective intelligence across them. The activity in Divvy has become pretty stagnant. In fact, it's hard to do anything because we don't have a quorum of managers at the weekly Monday afternoon meetings. I put a request in there to add Gary in the Divvy managers private channel for Gary to become a manager so that we can do stuff again. No, we can't even spend Divvy as it is. Well, we can, but, and we do, but it takes 3 of us, 3 pirates, so to speak, for us to do anything meaningful. I'm proposing that both you and Gary become managers of Divvy. And I've added a norm to the group, consensus by default. I guess I'm raising the issue of present company concurrence when a decision needs to be made. immediately. The first question is, when do we have to make a decision? If it has to be immediate, present company can act. Inaction is one of the major problems in cooperations. And the self-management works because every decision, there's one individual responsible for the decision. And so if a decision has to be made, it can be made. Okay, and the third thing was the multi-stakeholder model, which I guess Steve in Big Life was bringing up, that it is a multi-stakeholder organization. I think we have to look at it more as a multi-stakeholder organization. I mean, there seems to be a lot of conflict now between what's good for the members, generally the 99% that aren't working in the cooperative, versus what's good for the people working in the cooperative. And the sociocratic principle is the people doing the work should make the decisions, but that can. Well, that way you have 1% of the people controlling 100%, which is what we want to stop. So in the stakeholder model, we can have stakeholders, and we can have an odd number of stakeholders, stakeholder groups make a decision. For example, in Dig Life, that could be the members, the workers, and the board. That's 3 groups. So if the members and the workers agree, they can decide. If the workers and the board agree, they can decide. Each one is a tiebreaker of the other 2. For our chain, I think we have workers, members, and token holders. Okay, and because we want to our groups to be autonomous. Okay, each stakeholder group can have their own governance model that they choose. Okay, we don't enforce one on them. Divvy, the same thing. We can have users, workers, and token holders. And I need to do write-ups on for the Declaration of Interdependence and Constitution of our chain prior to the governance conference in Seattle in February, where I hope to see you both. Hey, how come you guys are always fighting?
Jim, I'm not going to Seattle.
No.
I might go to Denver, but there's no way I'll go to Seattle.
What's the difference? The plane flight is an hour longer, maybe?
I know Denver. I feel more comfortable there.
Don't be a baby. If you haven't been to Seattle, you got to go. Period.
Where are you, Gary?
I'm in Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, okay.
What about you, Raul?
I'm in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Middle of the country.
You're going, Gary. we're going to have a vote, and you're going to lose. Who says Gary should go to Seattle?
I do.
Present company can decide, make decisions.
Well, this is what I was thinking about your three stakeholder model was that, I mean, decisions can be made with three people or three parties, whatever. Would the work get done is the real question in my mind. And what do we need for that, right? I mean, that's...
and it comes back to onboarding. Okay, in other words, there's the idea of a future possibility that drives its fulfillment, that people rally behind a future possibility. And there is no more wage slavery. People do the work they want to do. Okay. Onboarding people with shared vision. And, I guess, if it's worthwhile doing, there's people that will want to do it if they can get their being into the new, the future of work, the future of education, the future of self-governance and be a leader. Okay, we're taught to do what we're told, and with a leaderless system, you have to lead yourself, and you have to lead others. You all have to be leaders. So, any comments on governance? Did I cover it? Yeah.
I mean, on this, we three may be okay with this, but what is the, like, so for example, the workers, users, token holders, stuff like that. Who else do you need to get the concurrence from on this?
As far as I'm concerned, nobody.
Well, how do you get the behaviors changed then? I mean, how do you, let's say I think I hear what you're proposing.
Well, as you judge, so shall you be judged. Okay. Kendall, who's in principle should get concurrence from, has suggested over and over again that if someone doesn't show up for meetings, they lose their, they should lose their manager position. Now I'm saying, I'm compromising. I'm saying you don't lose your manager position. In essence, it's a position for life. It's a position of trust. Okay,
so you're saying basically they delegate away instead of losing their position until they're able to participate more.
Right. And here again, okay, this goes into the manager's private channel, and I will seek concurrence, okay, as I said, Bob O'Brien already concurred with bringing Gary on board. So I'll seek concurrence on getting you on board. And that's sufficient in the absence of participation. You know, if Kendall doesn't say no, if you know, that's the way it goes in sociocracies. If somebody has a concern or an objection, you have to listen to it. And in fact, you should elicit concerns and objections from everybody. But in order to be expedient, we can't wait forever to get those concerns or objections. You know, and people that come in at the last second objecting, sorry, that's disruptive. So until we get any objections, in order to function as an organization, I'll consider you and Gary to be managers. Does everybody agree with that? Concerns?
Jim, I agree with that. You've asked me before, and I kind of understand where you're going with in the lack of participation. This goes back to we're developing a lot of potentialities here, and so by definition, at the beginning, we're going to be spreading ourselves thin. We've got to have a release mechanism to get things done, and I think I understand your reasoning behind that.
Yeah.
But I also say it's not intuitively obvious. It requires some thought.
Well, you know, I'm looking at it this way. You know, I had WikiWorld going. It was pretty active for years, and it became stagnant. So I started Free Trust, and that was active for about a year and became stagnant. Then we started Divvy DAO as a spin-off from Scenario. That is becoming stagnant. So rather than start a new organization at this point, we need to bring in some new blood. And you know, I think Divvy has been effective in many ways. It's just that everybody's working on our chain and other projects that are Divvy related, and they're not working on Divvy, which is fine. Okay, but somehow there has to be oversight on all these different things that are Divvy related. And that's what I'm trying to bring here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, more and more organizations doesn't really make a difference until we figure out how to make one work.
That's true. Here I am trying to get collaboration among organizations, and I can't even make an organization that lasts more than a year or two. But this is, it's happening to thousands of communities. Same thing. They start off, a lot of excitement, and then they peter out. And it can happen to Diglight very easily. Our chain, I think, has momentum. Okay, the thing that I worry about is our chain becoming a target of powers that be that don't want to give us freedom.
So do you think, I'm wondering, do you think the momentum is more related to money or funding being available? I mean, when you look at these different things, is that a factor
I
or
think
is it
that's a
not
big factor, but I think there would be momentum otherwise. And in fact, before they got funding, they made a lot of progress.
But that was through scenario or hoping for funding from scenario or assuming funding from scenario, was it not?
Yeah, well, Scenario didn't really fund the development of our chain. And after the split, there was no funding for any developers or people involved, and yet substantial code was developed and no, I guess we can call it all prototype style, and certainly a lot of the mathematics and the conceptual development was done, and it was done by volunteers. And in essence, we have a priesthood here of the mathematicians that we can interact with only to some extent. Their language is necessarily distinct from ours. And then we have people that bridge the mathematics, which is all very positive stuff happening, along with the money. In fact, the money very often kills projects. It may not be a good thing, but right now, I have a lot of faith in the leadership, and I don't expect the money will be a game changer. The pivot, it's like Doug Rushkoff says, as soon as you involve investors, the mission pivots. And that was the challenge he gave us when he came to a fireside chat with the Scenario community leaders, which is a good video. Watch it. It's on the Divvy channel, I think. He was right as rain. I mean, they had the crowd sale, and Scenario went to shit. They sold to investors. The investors, the shareholders voted Greg out. When they had sold, everybody on our chain who participated in the crowd sale, which is why Greg did the AMP to Rock redemption. Which they did get some money from, but it basically didn't pay for the developers. They still have most of it, I think, most of the Scenario amps. Because they basically made a promise to not to dump the amps.
So anyways, on the governance part, I think I'm sufficiently satisfied for now. Did you want to quickly cover that social ledger trial and work study onboarding stuff?
Well, Well, as Gary said, the onboarding progress is important, and we have to develop a culture of onboarding each other. Everybody onboards other people, and we can reward people for onboarding them to our channel. And the social ledger more generally. We have the idea of slash dig greet, where you greet a member, and that keeps track of who's greeted a new member personally, and sends a direct message to the person in the channel. Quiet. That in essence begins the personal onboarding process, which involves finding your tribe and learning getting onboarded to crypto, getting onboarded to Mattermost, getting onboarded. Hey, cut it out, guys. To the social ledger. And the budgeting sheets and GitHub repository. Unfortunately, my video, I put it on pause. I didn't put it back, but we did go on to get GitHub accounts and look at the issues and look at the Kanban boards of the projects in the members' GitHub repository. Which everyone who's onboarded to our chain needs to do. And some people, you just send them to the GitHub address and they're done. And you're done because they can find their own way to it. But
right, they may already have GitHub experience, right?
Right, but it's something. There's nothing complicated about it really, but it's almost it's almost impossible to get people to. People don't want to learn anything new. They want to use what they know. But following the same process, the same procedures is what gives us a collective being. The same norms, and not everybody has to follow them. There's always a back door. There's always another way. If they follow some of the norms, they can contribute to the collective being. And they should be rewarded. And if they don't set up budgets and stuff, they should still get bonuses. They should still get credit for the value they've created in the organization.
So you were able to onboard Krishna through most of this stuff, but
he has a lot to learn, and he's going back and he's learning about blockchains and crypto and GitHub, hopefully, and
so
it was overwhelming.
Did you give him the links to learn about this stuff, or do we have them somewhere, or what?
I don't have good links for this stuff. I know at one point I did see a good video on my Ether wallet and a good, most of the GitHub videos they'll go over stuff that new members don't need to know right away. Um, um, but they cover the command line.
So I mean, maybe there's an action item here where we should at least say, okay, what are the links we need to provide to people that we're onboarding, so that they can at least begin that journey in their time, and that may be relatively quick, right? I mean, we may be able to knock it out in a couple of hours or something.
Yeah.
To say, here are the videos and here are the documents and whatever else to
Okay. This is I already put a link to the video and said we needed the link to the issues in issue 15, onboarding co-op members. Okay, so you might want to add yourselves to this task, and obviously whatever we find, we want to report here, which I said. I basically asked the question here: what are recommended videos and other resources for?
Okay. 15. Okay, I'll add myself to that one. I mean, maybe I should do that right now. Can you paste that link on the side over here to that page?
Issue 15?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean put it in the document? Yeah.
Okay.
Why are you copying it?
Well, I could click on it, but right now my default is taking me to Mozilla, and I'm in Chrome right now. So I need to change my default probably so that it's Chrome, because that'll start up like another 100 tabs. I don't want that.
Yeah, if you right click, you can copy URL a little easier.
True. Yeah. Same thing. Okay, I'll go through this and put any comments or, I mean, but where should we be storing any links we find? Would that be in this same issue 15 or somewhere else? Or should that be a document somewhere?
Well, let's see. I don't know what document. There's so many onboarding documents. I couldn't find out even where the onboarding discussion is in Dig Life. Um,
Well, for our chain folks, which is the main go-to place? Is it GitHub or is it Dig Life or both?
for what?
For our chain folks, is their work mostly done in GitHub or Dig
Yes.
Life or both?
Yeah, it's essentially all done in
GitHub, right?
GitHub.
So presumably the document should be in the GitHub somewhere. I would think, but
So I guess I'll make this part of the onboarding. I mean, this is all social ledger cooperation.
we should have one that says operations onboarding, right? As an item.
Okay. This is a link to the a link to the document that Andres and I worked on for Holochain. The other
I mean, basically, there is another level to it also, which is we could, for example, tell them that, hey, you know, like if you need to pick up JavaScript in addition to working with people on a peer review basis, you know, here are some Coursera courses or whatever that you can go through on your own. But we need to be crisp on what part of the technical architecture they're going to be working with. You know, is it going to be Elm? Is it going to be Scalar.js? Is it going to be JS? Based on that, we can tell them this is a source where you can pick up some stuff on your own in addition to working with you, right? Well, freecodecamp.org is kind of limited in that they only have your standard JavaScript, PHP, Node.js, things like that.
what happened? Put this in the wrong place.
Oh, you just hit the return, right? Then it'll make it into a separate bullet. And hit return maybe, or not. Thanks.
I don't know. It wouldn't put a link in there.
Maybe you could, yeah, I don't know if you need to put HTTPS or.
You just say add a link. Usually finds the link you're looking for.
Right. I mean, I would add Coursera also to that because their courses are also free.
Are you there? What's the URL?
Coursera.org.
I don't know how to spell it.
C-O-U, I'll type it. Hold on. I think I'm in here. Am I in here? No, you're not. Well,
You're in the document. I mean, you probably lost the tab, right?
that's, yeah, because you're sharing. I'm not able to see my thing, but I'll find it. Hold on one second. Yeah, I'm there. I think edX.org or com. I don't remember.
We have a sheet of educational resources somewhere. We have a document. Oh yeah, the Divvy document has resources at the bottom.
DVU is the DVU.org or?
No.
DVU.divvydev.org?
Nope, it's just
it's a channel in
it's a channel in Mattermost.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, we can come back and fix this over here. That's probably not too big a deal, but
so it's work study DVU here, and it's Dig A activities, and it's not here. So I go here and I search that drive for Divvy U, and we have the project doc.
so you're going to add it to the menu.
Why isn't it typing?
You're lagging.
Yeah, I'm lagging, all right. Okay, and whoops.
No, you misspelled it.
Yeah. DOC.
Yeah, I see that. I don't think I got that, did I? Oh, this is the lot. I remember to kill some. Okay, so if whenever you're in a channel and you type /dig and it doesn't have what you want, please add it. We all do a little. We'll be organized into a sociocratic polyarchy tomorrow. Okay, and is there a team defined here? You and me, Gary. Are you gonna join Divvy U, Rao?
You're on mute, Rao.
Yeah, I will, because I think this whole onboarding is the main thing for us to really get something done.
I thought I was sharing my screen.
You were most of the time.
You still are, I think.
Yeah, you are now.
I just did shared it again. Oh my goodness, you got 2 accounts. Oh no, you don't. That's Radu. Oh no, I left the dogs out. Oh boy, am I in trouble. Okay. And so what I did was in markup I added oh, what happened to that? /dove? I didn't fix it. I sworn it added it.
Do another control arrow. I think you may see. Oh yeah, you didn't fix it. Okay, cool.
What did it do? Oh, it gave me the yeah, it gives me the key links and tools, which is what it does when it doesn't understand what to do. It's probably the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, it would actually make more help just giving the error message, whatever the error message was, rather than that little menu. Because
yeah, and then it can also tell you to type a control up arrow to edit the previous command, and tell you about dig help and all that. Okay, so now I have 2 documents defined, and I'm going to commit to that one. And commit to that one. Okay. Nobody's talking to me, huh? Is this all today? No. Okay, I'm part of our effort here. I put out a couple of announcements today. We are looking to employ Rolang to orchestrate actors on HoloChain or diglife.com social ledger targeted ultimately for our chain. Help is needed. And I put a link to the GitHub issue there. And I put that on Discord and on Gitter. But, I guess we have to find the people who would want to work toward that objective, that see that possibility and it inspires them. Those are the people we want working on it. Not a wage slave. Okay, have we?
So I guess that leads to another question on the onboarding. Do we have the rolling onboarding piece? Because your task there says using Rolang to orchestrate things. Is there a onboarding document?
Is there a document?
Or a series of documents, whatever. I mean, the links to onboard somebody to Rolang and related R-chain stuff.
Yeah. I think I put a link in there. I mean, the document's out of date, I guess. Yeah, I have a document. So where should I put this? I don't know. I'll just stick it as a new item for now. I'm red, I don't want to be red. And that was where was that? And I'll put the issue in there. And I'll just add a note here that we need oversight on that. Nobody's jumped up and down saying they want to participate. There are some comments people have made in the issue. And I just got too many things going on. I haven't been able to follow up with them. It needs oversight. And we're it's just been languishing. But I think that's a good area to engage our chain in, obviously. And we also have the DID directory stuff. Firestore, is it?
Yeah, Firebase is what they're using currently, and Firestore was what I was suggesting. But either way,
Yeah.
we can say
I said
Firestore.
you recommended that, and Joachim says you're awesome, or something like that.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, you can actually, it can coexist with Firebase. They don't necessarily have to migrate everything that's in Firebase, but at least they can do the new stuff in Firestore so that it's
And,
kind of
to some extent, the DID directory should be separate, should be independent. And so we really have, open book on what we use for it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you can do different things in Firestone and keep them independent. That's also not a problem. The conversion or migration issue really is a matter of, if you're just trying to do a prototype now, do you want to take the time to spend effort on redoing something you have already done or migrating something you've already done? But I think the new stuff can go on Firestore.
Right. And I think it'll all be new. I think there's going to be, I don't know. In 1.5, we're not going to, we're going to redo the minimum. But, and just add the DID directory. And
right.
We have the...
So is Joachim the lead technical guy on this Firestore, Firebase stuff, or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then John Grant, I'm not sure what his knowledge of it is, whatever. Michael is not very technical.
Now, this social ledger trial bullet that you had up there, what was that about quickly? Is that, I mean, we're kind of about more than 2 hours into this, but is this the 1.5, 2.0? I mean, what's the thinking over there as to what is the social ledger trial going to do? Or is there a document there that I could educate myself about, or links?
Yeah. The social ledger trial is ongoing now, and it's more about 1.0. It's what we have in place now and are trying to run with. And usually when we see the social ledger trial, it has to do with whether or not we're migrating the dig commands we have now to another platform, or migrating a platform to a Mattermost that has social ledger on it. To me, that's what social ledger trial means. But we have 2 trials going on, one for our chain and one for Holochain. And then I guess you could say for the Digital Life Collective and Divvy DAO, it's not really a trial. I mean, we're going to use it and build it and grow with it.
So essentially, this trial is about saying, okay, if for any given community, are we able to see the social activity in this social ledger format or something? Is that what we're trying to do, or what?
Well, in the trial, we would consider the trial a success if a percentage of either of those communities started using the tools of the social ledger on a platform where we support it. And yes, it could be about it in that the social ledger is more of a skeleton. What they do with it is up to the community that adopts it, and it may be for increasing the collective intelligence of the community. It may be for community building itself. And early on in the 1.0 stage, I see the tool being more of a community building tool rather than an intelligence gathering tool.
I put a link to the trial document in there.
Okay.
I suggest you look it over. These are and one of the things we needed to do here is, oops. Break these down according to servers. Since all of these guys are on the same server. What? Okay, these have their own. Okay, all of these are on the Divvy DAO server. And these are on the DexTech server. And, oh, this one's on the Holochain has their own server. Okay, so I was thinking of adding a DivvyU domain on the Divvy DAO server also. Where we would have channels for skills and projects. Sort of like one-stop shopping.
Right. I mean, you're collecting that skills and interests form somewhere over there on Divvy DAO.
Yeah,
So
I think not a lot of people filled it out. I guess we do need to review that data and engage those people.
And I mean, also ask whoever is we're onboarding and new to definitely fill it out as opposed to leave it as an option or something. I don't know. We need to. Because if you're going to do skills and projects matching over there, you need to have everybody fill out their skills and interest stuff.
Yeah, but we're not really doing that. You know, where people are finding their tribe, and they need, you know, they're either going to enter into a project or they're going to have a skill they want to learn. That, you know, the talent and tasking is a little bit separate from a Divvy U point of view.
Right.
Although we do want uh, uh, we do want people social objects with skills associated with them.
Mm. This synapse accelerity or whatever it is, nothing going on with them, or what? I mean, we only mostly talked about holochain and some of these other groups, but you were showing a couple there that we have not had any conversation about.
Yeah, there's been I've done almost no facilitation in the deck stack communities.
Could you tell me in less than a paragraph what deck stack is?
Deck stack is supposed to be a decentralization community with people from many different organizations in it. And it was set up by the Laughing Monkey, of the Cicada Project, Daniel Jeffries, who's considered a thought leader, and lots of people have joined DeckStack from all over the place. So it's another collection of people that we can capitalize on, so to speak, in staffing.
Yeah, I talked to someone over there and talked a little bit about the social ledger, and that person said that they had looked at it and they were more interested in a minimum viable product, and they didn't mention it didn't feel like there was a way for them to collaborate at this point, but there probably is.
Yeah.
It was, I believe it was Castall that I'm sorry, that's not it. It was, I guess it was Adam Stollard that I spoke to.
So
now, which of the projects on the DeckStack server are considered the central ones?
I haven't been following it. You know, pretty much they didn't have a project. They just have discussion.
Okay.
And they added social ledger to the project's domain, not to the DeckStack domain. So when you go into the project's domain, you have to join another team to get to the main DeckStack.
Ah.
But the idea is that there should be projects in there, and we should create an R-Chain project and a Dig Life project and a Social Ledger project in the domain, in the project's domain there to draw people in. But I haven't been able to get around to it. Maybe you could do that, Gary.
Well, if I understand what you're saying, I'm on the deck stack server, which has channels like Brightside, Cyber Kibbutz, Dat Makerspace, FinTech Token, Free World, Social Ledger, so on and so on. Synaptic Celerity. Are you telling me there's another server related to DeckStack?
Oh, great. Joachim's getting it. User programmable cards written in any interpretive language. I think we're connecting.
Can you answer Gary's question, Jim?
I'm sorry, I got distracted. I forgot his question. I was about to answer it.
Let me.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was in the process of going to DeckStack. You want me to share my screen?
Go ahead. I was going to share mine, but it would be better if you share yours. Then I don't have to ask so many questions.
Okay, so this is the project's domain, which is connected to DigLife. And this is the planetary, I don't know why it doesn't highlight, planetarium project, which is connected to DigLife. And this is the Pieri project, which is not connected. This is the Synaptic Cerebral project, which is connected. Now, if we look in the main projects domain, which is connected, okay, we see channels for all the, here's the DeckStack projects channel. Maybe they do have projects. I created one for the social ledger already, but I haven't been terribly active there. But you can see people did join it. Okay, so what I'm suggesting is you create an R-chain channel here.
Yeah, all I've subscribed to is the projects. How do you find out about all those others?
You click here, and if there are any others,
wait a minute. Let me.
It'll say add another team.
Click where?
In the top left.
Okay.
So there's no other teams I can add, so it doesn't have it for me. I think it's in the second group. See it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna bust that's for sure. So there's a welcome to Holochain. Probably in all. And a Holochain channel, I guess. And in the social ledger bot channel, I had 7 items waiting. I turned off notifications here, but it doesn't allow me. I turned off desktop. What? I didn't turn off desktop. I don't know why this is. Okay, I never want notifications on this channel. Maybe that'll work now. But I keep getting, you know, I always get the red number awaiting in that column, which I don't want to get if I can help it. If something comes up on the social ledger log. Because you know, these are, if I'm mentioned here, it's usually myself. I do want to be notified if somebody uses my permissions to set something, or I guess adds me to a channel. But really, those should be sent as direct messages to the person. From the, now that's, you know, there's a million little things, improvements that need to be made to the social ledger. Now, where is this other mention? You know, sometimes it shows it. It doesn't
Go up to BYOD, Jim.
Oh, BYOD. Jeez. Patrick will put things anywhere he is. Or I guess this could be about the DID directory. Hollow J meetings. Well, I don't know.
I'm gonna have to shut down for a while, Jim.
Yeah, I think we've done enough for today. Thanks for coming. I'll be back on in a while. If you
For which meeting?
well,
or just work study?
the social ledger trial open meeting is at 4 p.m.
Yeah, okay, 4 p.m. Eastern. Okay, that's what I thought you were referring to. And I'll try to make that one as well. However, there is a chance that I will be on the road. So I'll stay in touch to let you know. But anyway, nice to meet you, Rao. It's a good meeting, and I hope to see you again soon.
Same here, Gary. Nice meeting you.
All right. Well, have a good one.
But you gotta go grab something to eat.
Yeah. I'm going to